Hey, Northside family, we wanted to send out this Devo today for a couple of reasons. One, to kind of test the platforms that we're going to be using on Sunday mornings to send out our church service, but also, more importantly, to encourage you all and pray for you all and give you maybe a word that can help calm some of your anxieties and things. I don't know where you are today, where you're watching from. Maybe you're at work and work is slow and it's a pretty anxious place. Maybe you're at home with the kids and also an anxious place because of the unknown and the world changing so rapidly and the news changing every single hour. And so we wanted to hop on here and just encourage our people and let you know that there are things that we are trying our best to do to reach out to our church family, to help those who are in need. If you haven't already heard, you can go to northsidechristianchurch.net/care. northsidechristianchurch.net/care and let us know how you can help. If there's a unique way that you are set up that you could be able to help other people, and also most importantly, if you need help. And if you need help, to let us know on there. There's some drop down menus, things like you need someone to pick up your medications, or you need someone to help you with some financial coaching. We've got people willing to help in those areas at this time. But we wanted to just take a minute to encourage you with the devotional word. And we'll be pushing some other things out towards the end of this week to let you know how you can join us for our Sunday morning services. Make sure you stay connected to our Facebook page, our Instagram page. All of these things we'll be pushing out, obviously YouTube, as we did this last weekend. But I wanted to talk just briefly about anxiety, right? I'm not an anxious person. I'm not the kind of person that worries really hardly ever. If you know what an Enneagram 7 is, that's me. I will do anything that I can to try to avoid talking about things that need to be talked about that are specifically anxious, or having difficult conversations. And I'm just not that kind of person. But I would guess that even if you're like me and you are not an anxious person, and it's easy for you to think on the positive side, that over the last couple weeks, there may have been some anxiety welling up inside of you. If you let yourself sit long enough and really think about how much the world has changed for us over a week, you might start to become anxious. And then you might be the kind of person that is prone to anxiousness. So I wanted to take just a little bit to talk a little bit about anxiousness, what Jesus has said about anxiousness, and what we can do to kind of combat it in this particularly unique time. So a few weeks back, we had an issue with our smoke detectors. They would just randomly go off. And of course, it was in the middle of the night or 2 a.m. or something like that. And it was just really, really frustrating, but it was really scary for our 5-year-old Hudson. He had never heard the fire alarms go off other than just a really quick test. And so they were going off, and we were kind of panicking, trying to figure out how to fix them. And once we got everything settled, realized that it was a malfunction in one of them and they were all setting off, we were able to sit and talk with him about the importance of having fire and smoke detectors in our house, because if there was a fire in our house, we would want to know, and that was a real danger that we'd want to know about so that we could get out and we could get to safety. That really helped him understand why that alarm was going off, but what it also did was gave him a bit of anxiety. So now every time he looks and he sees his fire alarm in his room, he will look up at it and he'll tell us, "Daddy, I hate real fire. I hate fire." And he's worrying about it in a way that we have to kind of calm those fears as well. It's like, buddy, we need those fire alarms because of if a real fire were to happen, but we don't want to be anxious and constantly thinking about a fire that could happen, because that just hurts our heart. It takes up our heart space in places that really don't need to be occupied. And as I started thinking about kind of the anxiety of this, is fear to be had in this time. And I'm not talking mass hysteria and go, crazy and buy 1 million rolls of toilet paper, but there is a fear of a virus that is still fairly new and parts unknown. As it continues to spread and as we continue to learn more about it, there is a fear to be had. But then there is also anxiety. You see, somebody told me once the difference in fear and anxiety is that fear is like being scared of a bear that is standing in front of you, getting ready to eat you. That's a real fear. Anxiety has been described more as thinking that there could be a bear in the woods that might come in front of you and that might eat you. It's that fear of the unknown. It's that anxiety of thinking 1, 2, 12 days in advance and taking that all in, and it just takes up head and heart space that is really used, that could really be used for something else. Like I said, there is a clear and a present danger. There are things we need to be concerned with and things we need to be thinking about. But there is a level of anxiety in our culture and throughout social media that is really taking up head and heart space that could be used in the present. Jesus spoke about anxiety when he talked to his followers as they were sitting listening to the Sermon on the Mount. And he told them, he said, as God takes care of the birds of the air, and he takes care of the grass of the field, and they're beautiful, and he fulfills their needs, how much more is your Father in heaven going to take care of you, his children? And that teaching had to be very comforting. And it is very comforting in a time like this to know that I look out my window and I see that grass is even starting to bloom and trees are starting to turn green again, and birds of the air are starting to, come and pick up all these worms that have come out with all of the rain. And that if God is taking care of them, how much more is he going to take care of us in our time of need? The end of that teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, that's Matthew chapter 6, the end of that teaching, Jesus says this. He says, "Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. When I think about my anxiety and even my current anxiety, it reminds me of being in high school. And maybe for you, it was a really anxious time. But one specific thing that a lesson that I kind of learned that helped me is my dad used to let me borrow the car on weekend nights. I would be able to take the car and I would be able to go out and to cruise around town and hang out with my friends. But one of the rules that we had was if you're going to borrow the car, make sure when you bring it back that there's enough fuel in it for him to get to work the next morning. That was his concern. He said, you can borrow the car, not a problem, but leave enough fuel in it so that I can get to work the next day. You see, the concern there was that he would wake up in the morning, and as normally happened, I would have run the car almost to empty and then been so close to curfew that I would rush home and, try to get in time for curfew. But then in the morning, he would wake up, have enough time to get to work, but not have enough fuel. When I think about anxiety, I think about having enough fuel for today's problems. God has given us a sustainability. He's given us a portion for today. He's given us enough fuel for today's problems. And he doesn't even dismiss the fact that there will be problems tomorrow and the next day and the next day. He doesn't dismiss the problems that are coming down the road. But he does say you've been given the sufficiency and the provision for today. Don't waste tomorrow's fuel on today's journey. Don't waste tomorrow's fuel on today's journey. That's what anxiety can do for us. That's what anxiety can rob us from. It takes up our head and our heart space on things that we can't control 2, 4, 6, 24 days out, when God has given us a sustainability and he's given us a portion today. So I want to give just a few practical tips in this time, wherever you are, whether you're still working or whether you're at home with the kids or you are shut in and really needing help and really feeling anxious. I want to give you some practical tools to help curb anxiety. Number one, don't isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself. If your idea of social distancing is social isolation, this will be a problem. We are all craving community right now. And whether you're a big group kind of person or a small group kind of person, it's hard to not be around your people. I'm an extreme extrovert. And so I'm like I want to just, have all the friends over and all that. We just need to see each other. My wife is an introvert, but even she said to me this morning, she said, I miss my people. I miss that, even the small group of people that she enjoys, that she has around her, that are close to her. We miss each other, and we were made for community. But what other time in history could this have happened where we could still be so connected? I mean, here we are sharing a devotional word, studying God's word together online. It could be all across the world. What other time in history could this have happened where we can't physically all be together, but we can still be connected? Don't isolate yourself from these things. Connect with people, call somebody, have some conversations on the phone. So number one, don't isolate yourself. Number two, let's care for each other. Let's care for each other. Some of that comes in phone calls and that sort of stuff. But if you are of able body and you are not, and you have not been exposed or you're not sick, there are ways that we could help. One of those ways is to just continue giving to the church. We've got efforts that are starting now to help people that are in need, that are losing income, that are needing help. One of the ways that the church can continue the work that we do week in and week out, and now in this specific unique time, is with the money that you generously give. Also, can you help? I mentioned northsidechristianchurch.net/care. Can you help in some way, or do you need help in some way? Just reach out to us. So don't isolate yourself. Number two, care for others. Number three, I would encourage you just to learn a lot in this time. There are millions of books and podcasts and videos that you can watch to enrich your spiritual knowledge, to enrich yourself in different ways. So I would highly suggest that you jump on something like Audible, where you can get a 30-day trial to listen to audiobooks. Some like podcasts that are almost all free. You can go and listen to sermons online, or topics of interest that you'd want to learn more about. So many churches and ministers and ministry leaders and Instagram influencers are putting out stuff. Musicians are putting out like free concerts on Instagram, that sort of stuff. But learn some stuff, lean into some stuff that you would normally not have the margin to do. I mean, we have margin now that's being built into our lives, that God is really giving us a chance to do some of these things that we say that we never have time to do. Number one, don't isolate yourself. Number two, care for others. Number three, learn some stuff. And then finally, number four, just remember that God has given you the sufficient fuel for your worries today. God has given you the sufficient fuel, and let His hands and let His might take control of what is coming. Give it to Him. From the liturgy that we posted on our Instagram page yesterday from everydayholy.com. My favorite portion of that was that our arms are too short and our strength is too weak. But God, mercy and justice and redemption and grace, those are your things, God. And so I just pray that we would be able to deal sufficiently with the worries that we have for today. What do you need to deal with today, and what fuel has God given you to use today, and that we don't burn up fuel that is going to be needed in the long haul. We know now that this is not a quick fix, and that we are going to be in this for a while, but we got to know that we don't want to come out on the other side of this with an empty tank and a dry spirit. That the Lord has given His provision on us so that we can sustain this. He has never changed. He never will change, and He will be there the same yesterday, today, and forever. His arms are long enough. His strength is sufficient. And so let's rest in that, knowing that today has its troubles, but sufficient for the day are its troubles, and that God holds the future in His hands. We love you guys. Stay connected to our social platforms so that we can get information to you in a timely manner. Take care of each other out there. Bye.